All right, we're recording. I'm here.
Hey,
This
Jill.
is Gail Whalen here with Linda Ford, who I just wanted to have a conversation. I haven't really done any of these conversations in a while, but I saw a Facebook post from you, Linda. That was it. Just really was. I mean, it was so well written, and I'm really picky about that. And
Oh, thank you, Jill.
and I was reading it again just now before the call, and I don't usually, long posts and stuff. I kind of am usually
Yeah,
like, bleh, because
yeah, I know.
people don't edit themselves a lot, and I'm picky about that. But this, like, you don't even know it's long like that. It was so
Oh, that's
engaging,
great.
and I wanted to hear more of the story because it was so engaging, and there's just so much in it for people um, who just people in general in relationships. I mean, we're all in relationships one way or another.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, why don't you kind of tell the story as best you can, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, I wrote this a number of years ago, actually, when I was going through coach training with Dr. Martha Beck, who was the person who trained me to coach. And there was a section there on writing. And she's a great writer, by the way, Martha Beck, great self-help writer. So I wrote this for that course, for that part of the training. And I really I really wanted to, because I'm a relationship coach, I really wanted to write something about one of the journeys that I've been through, because I've had quite an interesting relationship journey over the decades. And so this was one incident that happened to me that was pretty significant. And I kind of wanted to show it again, this blog, because, well, not only because it was Valentine's Day, right? But also as a coach, I have been hearing a lot from women who really struggle with this whole issue of, should I stay or should I leave? Um, Maybe all I need to do is adjust my thinking, to be able to stay. And unfortunately, some of those women that I've heard from are actually in um, quite abusive relationships. And so I just really kind of wanted to put something out there that really speaks to this issue of, how do you know when it's time to go? And is it just a question of you adjusting your thinking, right, to make everything okay? And is there something else going on here about you having a preference for something else, for someone else? And is there anything wrong with that? So that's what the article is about. It just dives into all of that. And oh, excuse me, sorry about that. I got to turn the phone off.
No
Uh,
problem.
the the article really dives into that, because that's exactly what happened to me in a relationship. I've been married three times. Three times. Three? Do I have three up? Yeah.
You're an expert, that means.
So I know about breakups, divorces. I'm on my third marriage now, third time lucky, got it right finally. But this was my second marriage. And I had been with him for about 8 years. Beautiful man. We're still friends today. He's very happily married. But there was a time, when I met him, I was in my late 20s. And by the end of the relationship, uh, I had changed considerably. I mean, I was evolving and growing. And so I kind of became someone else. And I reached a point in my relationship with him about 8 years later where I was feeling like I just needed to leave the relationship. He had kind of really served as not only a husband, but a mentor. He became more of a mentor for me. He was very bright. He was a great writer, and worked, he had his career. He worked for a major publisher in New York, where we lived. And I was just kind of like you know, so many steps behind him in so many ways with my career and such. And so through all of those 8 years, I was changing. And I reached a point where I just felt I just kind of outgrown him, and probably him, me too. But I was no longer, you know, the young wife who was just following him and living vicariously through him. I was unfurling myself, you know, I was trying to find my way, and I just kind of was ready to go to college. I didn't go to college till I was 35. That's how
Hmm.
insecure I was, right?
Wow.
So he kind of took me under his wing. We had a happy marriage, but then by the end, I just knew it was time for me to move on. And as the blog shows, I really tortured myself, uh, thinking about whether I should go or whether I should stay. And I had a lot of busy things. Of course, I didn't use that language back then. You know,
Yeah.
this is prior to the principles or any self-help. It was just, oh my God, you know, am I being selfish? Um, am I being, you know, am I showing a lack of committedness and commitment to the relationship? So all of those thoughts were going through my head, and I really gave myself a hard time of it. So much so that I had trouble actually talking to him about it. Like all this was going on, and I just had a lot of trouble, you know, getting the courage to sit down and really just express to him how I was feeling.
And
So,
was that like years?
yeah, I think I struggled with all of this for about 2 years. Should I, shouldn't I? You know, trying to make it work. It was just really painful. And so I I think as I look back, I think the reason I had trouble is because I had a real problem with just confronting people about stuff,
Can relate
because
to that one.
I think yeah, I mean, I just had a real fear of it because I grew up in a family where my parents were always fighting. And so whenever there was any kind of talk or something, for me, it meant it kind of triggered, oh, argue, fights, you know?
That's so interesting because
Yeah.
that's the same with me. I never really
Is
thought
it?
about, I never realized the connection between trouble confronting because I don't like, I'm better now, but yeah, I confront.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like for me to be able to express myself was like, don't go there. That's dangerous, you know?
Yeah. Hmm.
And the other thing that was really on my mind is that my mother went through really hard times with my father, and had every good reason to leave him. That's another story about why. But she stuck it out. And so I mean, she's my role model, right? And so I was thinking, well, if my mother can put up with it all, what the heck does that say about me? You know, I'm walking out on a perfectly good man. So I
Mm.
had a lot of guilt about that. So those two together was like, it was like, don't go there, don't talk about it, it'll sort itself out, you know. And that's what happened. I think about 2 years of living that way. It was painful.
Hmm. It's so interesting because I mean, I've been married 37 years or so, somewhere in that
Wow.
vicinity, but I've gone through periods, you know, like we all do, where, you know, you go through those same thoughts too. And sometimes I wonder, you know, because I don't know that there's any right or wrong thing to do necessarily if you're, you know, in a basically everything's okay, you know, but but it's that preferences, like you say, you might,
Yeah.
you know, there's reasons too. I mean, sometimes what I noticed was things could be bad for however long, but then they can get better too. So I can see where in your mind too, you personally could be going through all these things too. Yeah, well, we've had bad before, but then it gets better. And it's so easy that, you know, you can go through a
Yeah.
million different scenarios in your mind, and I've done them all. And then there's also the whole, for me, an inertia too, like you just, it's not worth the trouble.
Yeah. It's a big
Which
thing.
can
Yeah.
be good too, because then you stay together and things are good.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, yeah. I going to pick up on something you said there about, you were talking about preferences.
That
I'm not really, here's the thing. Here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that, this is an easy decision or it should be an easy decision, because you're dealing with another human being. And if there are children involved,
mm,
we have to consider. So set that aside. These are not easy decisions. We're not just kind of like waking up one day and thinking, oh, I've outgrown someone and just it's time to go. It's
right.
never that easy. But I think how I look at it now is also keeping that in mind. Um, I think it's really healthy to kind of see sometimes in life we want to move on and step into, because we're always evolving and growing and changing, right? And like I said, I just kind of had outgrown that relationship, and it just seemed like the next natural step to take, even though it was difficult. So I've come to see that sometimes that's okay in relationships. If you've been with someone for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you're entitled to have a preference about where you want to go and who you want to live your life with. And I think a lot of people today think if you're making a decision to leave, you've got to have a damn good, horrible reason.
Mm,
He's got to have been cheated on you, or, done something terrible, or gambled all your money away, which is what happened to my parents. My dad gambled all our money. Uh, but
mm,
there's also this other element of you can just outgrow someone in a beautiful way. And it doesn't have to be nasty or contentious. And I think that's the way it was for us. It's just that I made it out like, I was just afraid and
Well,
anxious
and you
that,
blame, as we do, we blame ourselves. What's wrong with me? And then
yeah,
I'm failing again. I suck at this and blah, blah,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I could see where that happens as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have we have preferences for everything in life. Um, and we have preferences of what kind of clothes we want to wear, the house we live in, how we want it to look. Um, my husband and I, 6, 7 years ago, lived in Montana, and we lived there for about 8 years. Loved it, gorgeous. We had a lovely community. And then after about 8 years, one day we just said to each other, "We miss the ocean,
Hmm.
right? Let's maybe we should think about moving back to the ocean." And it wasn't like, gotta get out of here, gotta make this happen, I need the ocean to be happy. It was just, let's try something else.
Yeah.
The desire just kind of came up naturally, and we didn't kind of panic or get kind of graspy about it. We just let it come up and see. It's almost like life just kind of breathing you in a sense,
Yeah.
and you
And
just make a decision.
that brings up the point where I was thinking, because I've had this feeling too, like where you say you outgrow someone, let's say, I've often thought that through the years, that with a relationship that you either grow together or grow apart. And so with your current husband, you're growing together, where you both, like if you really wanted the ocean and he didn't, or something like that, that could be a sticking point. But with your previous husband, it seems like you definitely grew apart. And I've noticed that in my marriage, that we did grow together. I mean, there were points where it wasn't always in sync that way, but
Yeah.
over time, it evened out where we were growing together. And
Well,
that,
I mean, the other side of it, the marriage I have now, we did eventually come back to the ocean. We're living by the ocean right now. But
I
a few
saw that
years,
ocean living.
yeah. So a few years prior, though, Jill, because my husband's an academic, sometimes you got to go where the work is, right? And we ended up going to a place for 2 years. I won't say where it is because I don't want to, offend it, but it wasn't my cup of tea. It wasn't my preference. But because we were in sync together and I love my husband, we went and I made that sacrifice and I stepped into it, both feet, knowing full well that we could do that. And then from that place, decide how to leave or where we could go. So, you know, um, that says a lot about the relationship.
Right.
We are very much in sync with each other and our values and committed and that kind of thing. So
Yeah. Okay, so let's continue the story. So you went a few years sort of being not happy. Did he know you weren't happy, or was he not happy?
oh
Or
yeah, we both became quite estranged, you
and
know.
even with that, you still couldn't do it, even though you were basically estranged.
Yeah, it's just
Interesting.
people are afraid of change. And at that point in our lives, we weren't rich, we didn't have a lot of money, and I was trying to make my way through school. And so, there was a part of me that was saying, oh, maybe I just should stay put and put up with it, because what else am I going to do? Sometimes it does come down to economics. But
Yes.
so yeah, I mean, we were cordial, but we were then the last year or so, we were kind of in separate rooms. And believe it or not, you can live with someone knowing full well that there's something not right and that you are actually going your separate ways, and so that was very obvious. But
So
we just didn't want to. I just didn't want to, and he at that point didn't want to really have that serious conversation.
so neither one of you talked about it, but you were in separate rooms. So somehow
Oh, well,
you
no, at that point, the last year, we were kind of like, we did talk about what we wanted, but we were just so afraid to make the decision. You
to
can't,
really just make the
yeah,
final push.
yeah, that final push, yeah. So, yeah, which is which is when, we had that amazing experience of synchronized dreams,
Yes. Tell
Um,
us about that. That's like
yeah, it was, it was a strangest experience. Um, I'm going to give a metaphor here, and it's not going to be pretty, right? But it really does explain. You know how you have that feeling sometimes when you want to throw up and you're on the verge of throwing up. And sometimes you kind of like, I know it's got to come up, but I'm going to keep it down as long as I can't go there right now, right? I think we've all had that
Mhm.
experience. And it was kind of like that. And I kept pushing it down. I kept pushing down the conversation that was going to change, the decision, right? And so the more I pushed the truth down, uh, there was something going on, And so what happened, for those of you who haven't read the blog, I went to sleep one night, and in my dream, I was telling Steve how much I loved him, but how I couldn't live with him and that I had to go. So that all came out in my dream. And at that moment, he came into my room and said, I've just had the strangest experience where I met you in my dream and you told me. He wasn't mad or anything. He was scared. And I was freaked out because I didn't know what had happened. And, it was strange, but it was just also really beautiful because it felt as if there was some other force that was just like, I mean, I use that like breathing, like living us, And as I look back on it now, with my vision now, I can see that that was really my inner wisdom, or that said, you're going to be okay. It's okay for you to leave. There's nothing wrong with this. You will be okay, and Steve will be okay. And and it just kind of forced it out, you know, and it was a beautiful thing. And it's it's really an indication that the truth is really where it's at. The truth wants to be seen, it wants to be heard. And the more we avoid it and resist it, you know, it's like trying to put the sun in a basket with a lid on it. It's impossible, you know, that sun is going to shine. And the truth really wants to come out for our own benefit, right? For the benefit of
Mm.
our journey. So that kind of solved everything. It was a painful way to go about it, but it
So,
just there was no way I control that.
I mean, it so much speaks to the whole notion, the oneness of
Yeah,
life
doesn't it?
that you could both, that, I mean, I mean, it's another whole, well, it's part of this conversation. It's part of why I wanted to talk about it because it's, um, a lot of the stuff that I listen to and have been studying speaks to that kind of thing, that's the magic in this world. I mean, that's, who people wouldn't even believe that, and you
Yeah,
probably wouldn't believe it and it would be scary. But so you both basically had the same sort of dream where you met each other in this dream. It,
yeah,
it,
and sorry, Jill.
no, you go ahead.
Yeah, you know, when I think about it, um, the dream served me, and it also served his needs,
Hmm.
and I love knowing that, and that there was some force that was really guiding us to our right lives. You know, that expression, or whatever our lives were going to be, but that it was time to move on, and that's a good thing to know. It wasn't favoring me over him or him over me. It was a benevolent force that was good for both of us, you know, because it was time.
Mm,
And I love knowing that. And because we were, you know, we weren't acrimonious, or, you know, we never had any kind of anger between us. And because there was that still that love there between us, you know, that kind of kindness and respect for each other. Um, I like knowing that that was there to help us, to help both of us.
yeah.
So yeah.
It sounds like, I don't know. Have you ever read what's his name? Michael Newton's Journey of Souls, or know anything about that? Like,
No.
or the concept of like soul groups that we
Oh
come
right. Yeah.
here in soul groups. I feel like your ex-husband was part of your soul group. And we have all these millions of soul mates. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
you're with them your whole life, but they serve this function together. It sounds like that would help explain
It
the whole
does. And he's
dream.
still a good friend to this day. You're absolutely right, Jill. It's like we go back, you know, and that relationship between us will always be there. Um, Whereas I've had other relationships with guys, long relationships. In fact, the one that came after, that's a whole other story. Uh, that no connection, none of that feeling like we're old souls together and we'll never, you know, there'll always be that connection with us. So he was
Mm.
definitely one of them.
But
And
do you feel that even that one after, though, he served some purpose, like just
oh,
because you,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's always it. I love looking at life that way. It's
Yeah.
all lessons.
Yeah, it would actually take me the next relationship that I went into, I was in it for 12 years. And that's the one that became emotionally abusive towards the last 3 years of it.
Mm.
And that's the one. Um, so I would have to go through a whole other, you know, relationship to finally figure out what I had to learn about me, right?
Mm.
It's that whole part of the journey, you know, these relationships are just, they're all a catalyst for our own growth, our own spiritual development, right? And so it would take me another 12 years of another guy in another, he was committed, but, you know, just to figure out what was really going on with me.
And I
And
think, do you think that's a question of time and maturity too? Because I feel the same. I mean, even though I've been in one one relationship, but I feel like I've gone through lots of similar things like that, where in different periods, where it finally took me till I was 50 or so to get to a point where
yeah,
you know
yeah,
finding
absolutely.
myself.
I think maturity does have a lot to do with it. When I think about how, well, when you're in your 20s, your brain's not fully developed anyway, right? And even in my 30s, I was, I look back and compare myself to from now to then, such a huge difference.
Mhm.
So it is my relationship journey has been a catalyst for my spiritual development, getting to know who I really am. I can see that now. I can
Yeah,
see that that was the vehicle that was best for me.
yeah,
It worked. And like you, Jill, I think I was 45 when I met my husband, now Tim, and the months leading up to that relationship were pivotal for me to fully step into, just developing the relationship with me first, which is
yeah.
something I never did, right? I never, ever considered, really understanding the relationship between me and me. So that happened before I met Tim, which really speaks to the power of knowing who you are, loving yourself, and how that has a power to really help you create a beautiful relationship with someone. It's everything,
hmm
you know?
it's all that. It's all we can do, is stuff within our own stuff,
Yeah.
like we can only work on our own selves, and that then can transform our relationships, or who we want to be with, or how we want to be with others. And but yeah, it's so cliche, it sounds so cliche, you have to love
Yeah.
yourself, but we don't really know what
But
that
you do.
means. Right. But
Yeah.
like, at least I never knew what that meant. I thought I loved myself because I thought I was like the greatest person. So
Yeah.
but that's not what that wasn't the same thing.
I
That
know
was
we throw that term around a lot, don't we? But back then in my 30s and 20s and 30s, I didn't really know what loving yourself meant. I thought it actually, if I think about it, it meant go out and find a guy, treat yourself. um,
or now it's, that people go and have a facial and
or
pamper
yeah,
yourself.
yeah, make sure you've got nice clothes to wear, and yeah,
Yes, you come first. But you can, I don't know about maybe you can explain it better, but it's hard to put into words what it really means. I mean, you guys you and Lana, our
yeah.
other friend and colleague, do these relationship programs and stuff. So you probably talk about it. This
Yeah,
exact.
we've actually got one starting this Thursday. So there's still time to sign up, guys.
And what is that? Just
It's
briefly.
called A Brand New Way of Dating: How to Be and Find an Amazing Partner. And it's really, it's a course, it's a 4-day workshop for women. We'll do one for guys later, but this one's just for women who are struggling in the dating scene, or even in a new relationship. You've just got a new relationship and you're trying to, navigate yourself through it so that, you know, things work out in it. Um, but it's really about figuring out, like, who are you when you come to a relationship? What's going on? And so much of the dating world, if you pick up all these books on dating, it's also complicated. And, you got to do this, you got to speak like that, you got to learn how to flirt, you've got to learn how to
God.
text. I
So
mean,
you get
it's
all
just,
this on your mind while you're
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
just to try
it,
your time together, and you got to think of all these things too.
exactly. And so, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with that stuff. It can be fun, right? But it's kind of like that suit. It's that surface stuff. But here's another metaphor that I like to use. We all love little cupcakes, right? So if you've got a cupcake and you've got the bread portion, or the cake portion, right? And then you've got the icing and the sprinkles on the top, right? Now, if the cake and the two together are beautiful combination, right? So we see that, how you present yourself, how you look, all that fluff that we were just talking about, how you talk, how you speak, how you present yourself, that's kind of like the icing and the sprinkles, right? But that cake portion of the cupcake is what we refer to as that's your foundation, right? That's what that stuff sits on. And if that cake portion of the cupcake isn't cooked properly, it's just not going to work. So we say you've got to have that foundational core in place, right? Before you can do all the other stuff. And what is that foundation? It's confidence in yourself. It's like knowing your worth. And it means everything. It's the difference between going out and dating and having a relationship and feeling really lonely and frustrated, to like coming and playing with someone and just knowing who you are and not worrying about whether he likes you or not. There's a whole different level of playing in that field that it's just night and day. So the course is really to show you how you can come from it, from that fresh new brand new way of thinking about it all.
And it's the same for everything, isn't it? Like if you come at life in a lighthearted, with lightheartedness, not trying to get something. Like I could see that for dating too. I mean, thankfully I don't have to do
I
that.
know.
One more reason to stay together. Um, but I would imagine if you're going into it with all this stuff on your mind, and instead of just like, oh, let's just see who we meet, and have and enjoy
Yeah.
the individual dates and the people you're with and see what happens. It's just like learning the spirituality and stuff. If you or self-help, if you're trying to like solve one of your alleged problems, and that's the one thing you want, and you're listening through that lens, like you'll never, it doesn't work. But if you're just listening because it's interesting and you're curious, like you just realize, wait a minute, those things I wanted solved are suddenly just gone.
Yeah, it really does take care of everything on its own. If you just tend to your own lane, to yourself. And what I discovered, Jill, was that the most effective way to find an ideal partner, the one that's right for you, and to have fun doing it, is you've got to have your own life separate. If you have your own life, your own identity, and you're okay with that, then it's not like it helps you not think, oh, I need this relationship to make me happy. You're already happy, right? So many women are just like looking for that man, that guy to fill some void. And
Yeah.
that's what I used to do. I was always doing that.
I think that's how most relationships tend to be, is like a codependent. And I know that
Yeah,
my relationship was, it was just for the longest time, it was just this codependent, co-addiction almost.
yeah,
You need the other person to somehow make you feel good, you think. And it's just one more addiction. It's just like anything else. Like you need alcohol to be able
exactly.
to do whatever. You need this and you need that other person. You think that those outside things are making you happy. But man, yeah, when you can see that that's coming from within you anyway, I mean, then it's
Yeah.
all gravy.
Yeah, we've had it all backwards. At least when I was
Mm,
growing up, we had it all backwards. Like, you put the donkey before the cart, or the cart before the donkey. Um, it's like, yeah, we think it's get the man first and then I'll be happy. But it isn't. It's take care of yourself, love yourself, create some beautiful life for yourself first. And then when somebody comes along, that sharing of a life, it's just there's nothing like it. It's really beautiful to be able to
And
do.
to be with somebody like that too, like who wouldn't be attracted to that
Oh,
person?
it's actually a real one of the biggest aphrodisiacs. I mean, you know, if you're going to meet someone, I mean, how many of if you met someone and they had no life and they just kind of got all needy and wanted you to be in a relationship, you wouldn't be attracted to them, you know? And so it's common sense, really, isn't it?
Well, it attracts the other type of person, the same codependent person who wants
Exactly.
that needy
Yeah.
person to, so they can feel, you know, as how my
Yeah.
relationship used to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's sad that this stuff isn't. I mean, again, it's cliches. We all know the happiness is inside of us, but it's sad that it doesn't. It's not really as well known to people what that means. You know what true happiness, or not even happiness. It's a peace of mind, or within yourself.
Yeah.
That
Well, you know, we've been raised in a culture. Um, it's a very um outside in culture we live in. And you know what? It probably always will be.
yeah.
And we have to remind ourselves that it doesn't work that way. Happiness doesn't come from the outside. It's an inside job. But, you know, I mean, just look at Madison Avenue advertising. Everything is you're being told every time, every minute of the day, you need this to make you happy.
Mm.
You need this to be able to get the guy, you know, you need to look a certain way. Um, and so it bombards us. And so it's very hard to kind of just break that
Oh.
spell.
Think of all the problems it creates. But
Yeah.
like all the rules. Remember, there was those dating books about the
Oh, the
rules
rules. God,
thing.
yeah.
And yeah, like so, like you can't call someone back, or what people read into. I can't imagine dating in the time of text messages, because I see people around, reading into someone just said two words in a text, and it's oh, that's it. I'm done with them.
I know. I know. And
Oh.
then we wonder why, you know, we don't um like we show up at the dating world and we play hard to get, you know, and we kind of like playing all these games with people. And then we come away and we're wondering, why can't I find intimacy? You know, why can't I find my person?
Mm,
Um,
mm,
is it any wonder why? Because we're not allowing ourselves to be fully shown. We're not showing up as our true selves, and we're holding back. It's like we're wearing a mask. I always refer to it as like we're showing up as our airbrushed self, right? And they don't really get to see the true us, the real us. And then they wonder, what, how come I can't find someone or feel that love,
mhm.
intimacy, you know? So it's
Well, you
we
see, people get sold the wrong bill of goods too, because people will be fake up until they get married.
yeah.
Did you watch Mrs. Maisel? That
No,
it's on Amazon Prime.
I've
The
heard of it.
one,
Yeah.
marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Well,
Marvelous
she
Mrs.
it
Maisel.
was
Yeah.
it was done, I think, it was supposed to be from the 1950s. But so she would do her makeup. She would keep her makeup on when she went to bed, and then when her husband fell asleep, she would
Oh my
undo the makeup,
God.
and then she'd get up before him and put all the makeup back
Oh
on.
my God. That's insane. Yeah.
Like that's the ultimate example of
Yeah.
the fakeness, and the games that people play. Oh,
That's the thing. If you don't really know who you are, and when we say love yourself, like appreciate who you are, what your qualities are, what your talents are, your skills, your gifts, you know, then how is anybody else going to know? So it's
yeah.
like you need to get intimate with yourself first, which is what we do in this workshop. We help women really kind of get to the heart of what's special about you know, about them.
Yeah.
So that it's like when you go out into the world with that feeling of self-appreciation, it's a whole different ball game when you come from that place, rather than, oh, I wonder who's out there will take me or love me, you know. It's a whole different.
And this goes right along with, I mean, you have a book about confidence, you and Lana
Yeah.
again too. And is that other program still open? Can people buy it or?
Yeah, that's a standalone program. Yeah, if I'm so smart, why don't I feel more confident? So that's a whole online program about what is confidence, how
And
you.
I'll put some links to all these things,
Yeah,
on
I'll send you the
YouTube,
links and people can
video,
take
and
a look at them
Facebook.
for
But
sure.
I was just thinking about, I remembered once when you told me, a few years ago, maybe, like, you thought, my Facebook post, you were like, wow, the fact that you can put yourself out there. And then I'm laughing when I saw your post yesterday, this one that we started this conversation with, because like that was really, I mean, you put everything out there, about your thoughts, your relationship, your, all the everything. And I think that's,
Yeah, well, I've been
value.
on this journey, and I've always admired you're kind of out there, and you don't seem to feel that fear. And I've changed myself over the last 5 years. I can see how I've just opened up and feel more comfortable in my skin. I have days when I don't feel like that, but mostly I do, you know. So and the reason I put it all out there now, like I really want to communicate, is because I really want to change this for people. There's no need to have dating and relationships be so stressful and lonely. And so whatever I can do, because it's really a painful. I mean, when I put that blog out, yes, I've had so many messages sent. Oh my God, you spoke my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like when you put something out there like that and you get really honest, you give other people permission
Yeah.
to feel that and to know that it's okay what they're feeling, you
Yeah.
know? So,
Yeah, and that's why I do it, although I don't do it as much lately. I don't write as much stuff, but that is why too, because I think it's important too for people to know, like what you just said, that you don't always feel it, like, I
yeah.
mean,
Oh no. Ask
we're
Lana.
right. I mean, we're not, neither one of us or anyone who talks about this stuff has it all together. We're all still learning. And, people say, oh, look at her, she's got it all together. But no,
Oh no. No.
that's not what it's about. We're still human, and we're living in this
Yeah.
human world of ups and downs, and we're yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
imperfection for sure.
Yeah,
Work
yeah.
in
I mean,
progress.
I have my days, believe me, ask Lana. And but I know what's going on, now. I know what it is. And
That
so
helps.
yeah, so it's easier to navigate, and I'll let myself have a down day, and then I'll just get up the next day and start again.
And,
So
and that's what I found for myself, is the difference is that, like, I don't beat myself up for it. So what if I yelled at someone in my family, or whatever? Like, that's okay.
yeah,
That's human. Of course,
yeah,
most people under those circumstances probably would have too, or
yeah,
whatever. It's the suffering that we go through a lot of times is just thinking, especially once you've learned things, oh, well, I shouldn't do this anymore. I should know better. I should never be anxious, or I should
yeah.
always be confident.
Oh yeah, it's just such pressure, right?
Yeah, it doesn't really work that way, though. At least not in my experience.
No, me neither.
Well, thank you for talking about all this, because, as I said, this, I think, is helpful to everyone, because as I read that blog post, and I encourage people to read it, because even though Linda's just explained the writing of it too, it really goes through what her thought process was. And I think
Thank you,
that's
Jill.
what I was relating to as well, because I'm like, yeah, I thought that, I've
Yeah.
had all those thoughts.
Well, thanks very much, Jill. I always love chatting with you, having
Yeah,
these
it's nice,
conversations.
nice catching up a
We
little
should do it
too.
more often.
Definitely. I got plenty of time. I know you guys are all busy, but so just let me know.
Absolutely, for sure.
All right, I'm going to turn off record
Right.
here.